We mentioned before, his truths are getting covered a lot more. I think he said this morning he was retweeting a QAnon drop.
That's what they're called.
It's great.
That's the parlance.
Q drop. Great stuff from our former president. But this got a lot of attention. Go ahead and put this up on the screen. So he said, so now it comes down conclusively that the FBI buried the Hunter Biden laptop story before the election, all caps, knowing that if they didn't, Trump would have easily won the 2020 presidential election. Okay. This is massive fraud and election interference at a level never seen before in our country. Remedy. You ready for this one? Declare the rightful winner, or, and this would be the minimal solution, declare the 2020 election irreparably compromised and have a new election immediately. What do you think about that one, Saagar?
See, I always think it's important. Again, I'm just going to call out once again Josh Hawley, many of my other friends here in Washington who kind of play footsie they play footsie with Stop the Steal. They're like, well, you don't understand. Like, he's not saying the election was rigged. He's not saying the election was stolen. This is specifically about mail-in balloting or the lack of voter ID.
Or media bias, big tech bias.
Or Zuckbucks, as in like Zuckerberg, algorithmically, which, what did we cover yesterday? We said it was outrageous. Does it constitute like literal, changing the election? I mean, I don't know, maybe in a legal sense, but if you want to make it illegal, then pass a bill. Oh wait, Republicans have been the ones who are blocking anything going after big tech on the FTC. Interesting, how that works.
Great point.
Anyway, the point that I'm making is that he believes it. And whenever you play footsie with this stuff, you have to just buy it all in. Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz and all of them, they are willing to just be like, yeah, the election was straight up rigged. It was straight up stolen. No, my particular election, there was nothing going on with Georgia voter fraud at Marjorie Taylor Greene's district. But, on the national level, absolutely. That's what happened.
Yes.
And you point to specifics and they're like, oh, they use the word audit a lot, right? They're like, oh, did you watch the audit? Did you watch this edited YouTube video? By the way, just so everybody knows, the 2000 Mules book by Dinesh D'Souza just was issued a full recall from Barnes & Noble and everybody else just yesterday. The news came out. I wonder if maybe some of the claims in there were opening them up to legal liability.
By the way, that doesn't come from Barnes & Noble. That came directly
from the publisher. Exactly.
Which is like a right-wing outfit.
Yes.
So the publisher was like, we got some trouble here. It wasn't like liberal Barnes & Noble or whatever. The wokesters of Barnes & Noble or whatever.
Thank you for heading that off, because I didn't even consider that the low IQ response.
That would be what people would assume.
But, listen, this is what he believes. He believes the election was stolen. He believes it should be overturned.
He believes he should be immediately reinstated as president like a dictator.
He's saying she should declare the rightful winner. And you'll recall also that everybody attacked Mo Brooks because Mo Brooks said that he would not commit to overturning immediately the election. And that's what Trump accused him of, quote, going woke for. So I just think it's important that we understand at a very visceral level what riding with Trump throughout all of this means.
Yes.
It doesn't mean voter ballots. He doesn't mean Pennsylvania election law. He doesn't even care about the Georgia voting law. He doesn't care about voter ID. Even if there are merits to any of these laws or policies, he only cares if you are willing to say that the election was straight up illegitimate and should be reversed overnight.
And go down every rabbit hole. Today he's talking about, Facebook and the FBI or whatever, but he will go down any rabbit hole of conspiracy to justify that he is the rightful president. I mean, you see this too, and this goes back to our sort of general view that the Ron DeSantis being able to defeat Trump in a primary is foolish wish casting by DC types. He's doing the same thing in Florida. He had this voter fraud. He made a big deal of like, oh, we've arrested these 20 people, et cetera, et cetera. Well, who were they? In Florida, they passed a ballot initiative saying that convicted felons should have their voting rights restored. Like, the voters wanted that. They backed it. Republicans came in and put all these provisions on it. You got to pay these fines and court fees, which are very hard to figure out. Well, it turned out a lot of these people, they had actually been told that their rights had been restored. They had a voter registration card sent to them that they filled out and turned in, and thought that they were genuinely able. This was not some conspiracy to like rig the election with 20 people for Donald Trump. Not that he needed the help in Florida anyway. He won just fine on his own. But again, this is their attempt to sort of like dabble in some legitimate version of this. And guess what? when you get on a stage with Donald Trump and you're up against him head to head, do you think that's going to be sufficient?
No.
It's not. It's not even close to where they want you to go. And you see this with the type of candidates who got nominated in places like Arizona, who are willing to just flat out go all the way in with every conspiracy, 2,000 mules, and say, well, I wouldn't have certified the election if I was the governor at the time. That's where you have to be. And if you're not there, then you're going to end up like, you know, being painted as like Liz Cheney, basically.
Yeah, you've gone woke.
Yes, you've gone woke, as Mo Brooks did by just basically saying, like, let's stop talking about this. Okay, there's one more legal piece of this that we wanted to bring you. So yesterday we talked to you about the fact that the Trump legal team, with regards to the FBI raid of Mar-a-Lago, had been asking for what's called a special master. Now, what is a special master? Usually, sort of independent expert who's brought in to evaluate materials that are seized in a raid like this to see if any of them are subject to attorney-client privilege, to filter those out before they go to the investigatory team. So in this case, and these have been used with Michael Cohen, there was a special master, Rudy Giuliani, in one of his things, there was a special master, so this is not unusual. What is different about the Trump team request for a special master is, number one, they aren't really focused on attorney-client privilege. What they're focused on is so-called executive privilege, that they have a legal theory believing that Trump can assert over some of these documents as a former president, even though this is a very contested sort of ground in terms of legal theory. So their request for a special master is a little bit different. Anyway, this judge, who happened to have been appointed by Trump, looked like she was going in the direction. She issued a preliminary order saying, I think I'm going to side with the Trump team on this, and I think I'm going to appoint a special master. That hearing, where we'll get the official decision, I believe, is today. Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.